Hi everyone, so my name is Kinsley Pick and this is my presentation on organizational security documentation. So on this slide you can see that we have the 4 steps in the organizational security process, and they are the policies, standard, procedures, and guidelines. We will look deeper into each of these specifically on how they work together and why each are important to keep a company secure. So this framework is important because it creates a clear, organized approach to managing security across an organization. It ensures that everyone knows what to do, how to do it, and why it matters. So let's take a deeper look into each document. So first off, we have policies. Policies are a high-level statement that identifies problem and scope and sets the organization's intentions to the future of their security. Policies are the backbone of an organization's posture, you might even say. They don't just define what needs to be protected, they set the tone for the entire security framework by establishing authority. An example for this document is making employees use a multi-factor authentication to access the company's systems. This is just a statement that is given by a higher level to implement more security policies throughout the company. Next, we have standards. And for standards, these are specific enforceable rules that support security policies. So standards ensure consistency and compliance with the policies, and standards are there to define the exact requirements that need to be completed. So they are having specific rules that will ensure consistency throughout the company. And an example of this is making a limit on employees' passwords and require special characters in their passwords. This would be required by all employees so the company can meet regulatory compliance needs. Next, we have procedures. So procedures are the step-by-step instructions that show exactly how to follow a standard or implement a policy. So the procedures translate the what of a standard into how you make it actionable for the employees and the IT teams. An example of this is a document on how to change your password in the system. So it's a complete guide on how to do that. This guide would walk you through on how to change your password, and it is a step-by-step guide to ensure that everyone will be able to complete their policy or standard that is being asked of them. Next, we have the guidelines. For the last document, guidelines provide suggestions that improve security without being mandatory. So these are a way for the company to give advice to their employees on how to complete the best practices that offer more flexibility while trying to meet company security goals. For example, a company recommends that employees change their password every 90 days or use strong paraphrases instead of using a password. So guidelines are helpful for promoting good security habits and encouraging good decision making throughout the company. On this slide, we are showing the hierarchical structure of a security documentation in an organization. And this is a pyramid that kind of shows you how I have them in order. So at the top, I have the first step in this process. Policies is the most strategic, and then moving down to guidelines, that is the most specific document in the framework. So policies are the what and the why behind the organization by defining the company's security goals and intentions. And then below that are the standards, which take the policy goals and break them into requirements. And this answers what exact rules must we follow to meet the policy. And then the third layer is procedures. These provide step-by-step instructions that tell the employee exactly how to follow the standards, which makes this process actionable. And then lastly, at the base are the guidelines. These are the recommended practices that are given to employees that offer flexibility for them. They are not mandatory, but they will help the staff make better security decisions where strict rules do not apply. Together, they create a strong, interconnected framework, and without this structure, an organization's security efforts can become disjointed and ineffective. Alright, so next we will look into a real-world example. So Microsoft is a good real-world example for organizational security because it is a very large company that operates cloud services, enterprise software, and platforms that are used by millions every day. Because of this, they need to make sure to have good security policies to keep their company safe and their users safer. So, for their policies, they have made sure to establish comprehensive security policies as part of its governance. For instance, they have made a corporate information security policy that defines their overall objective. It is there to protect their teams and employees to protect confidentiality. Their policies are high level and are approved by executives, and it mandates that all business units follow the security principles. From there, they have made security standards. So one clear example that I have found is their password and authentication method. The requirements are that the password must be 14 characters, support MFA, and the expiration periods depend on the role and sensitivity of what the password is used for. To comply with these policies and standards, they have procedures that are there to help employees and IT teams. Their procedure documentation explains steps on how to set up MFA on company devices, how to report phishing attempts, and apply security patches. These procedures are posted on their SharePoint-like platform for everyone to access. Lastly, Microsoft publishes their security guidelines for both internal and external users. One that I have found is Azure Security Best Practice Guide. This shows users the best way to make smart decisions and keep their information safe. At Microsoft, these practices are not mandatory, but are advised to ensure the best security. Overall, these all work together to make sure Microsoft employees are keeping themselves and the company safe. So, now that we have gone over how these documents work in theory and in a real-world example, let's go over how effective this process is. So, for their strengths, when it is done correctly, security documentation provides clarity and direction. The employees and executives know what is expected and how to perform these security rules that they have. It also creates consistency throughout the departments because, for example, all teams will be using the same security settings. For regulatory compliance and audit readiness, this process is well-structured and it's critical in industries like finance, healthcare, and tech to keep their company reaching their guidelines. Another strength is it helps define accountability. If something were to go wrong in the organization, they can trace back where the problem had occurred. But, like all things, there are strengths, but there are also challenges to make it effective. So for this process, it faces some challenges like keeping the document up to date. Security threats are changing daily, so therefore changing and keeping up with the policies are needing to be updated frequently. Another challenge is user engagement. People don't always read what is put in front of them, therefore mistakes or complete unity may not occur. There could also be information overload because employees ignore documentations due to there being too much information or simply just getting confused. Overall, to maximize effectiveness by overcoming these challenges is to integrate security training during onboarding, maybe even using plain language when creating the documents, and conduct periodic reviews to hear back from the users. This will create a strong culture and make this process the most effective that it can be. Overall, to conclude this presentation, I would say quickly that policies are the vision, standards are the rules, procedures are the action, and guidelines are the advice, and when it all comes together, it reduces the risk, it always has a better response, and compliance overall is better. Thank you guys for listening. Hope you enjoyed.